Hey everyone, it's me, Sean Capri. I'm glad you're here because you're listening to the most horse-powerful podcast on the internet. It's the Xbox Drive. I'm on a Skype call with my friend Ryan Turford, the man on the moose, and on our journey today, we may be talking about that tweet last night with the whole Activision thing. So jump on into the Xbox Drive.
No power greater than X.
Brian Murford, the weatherman, Canada's favorite weatherman on the moose, my friend. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Although, Sean, during the intro, you didn't refer to me as the weatherman on the moose, just the man on the moose, which I appreciate.
I went back.
I appreciate that I don't need to, talk about the weather all the time, even though it's
I'm the weatherman
cloudy
now. Look at me.
with
Look
8
at me.
degrees.
I'm the weatherman now. It's minus gazillion outside here.
Yeah.
People they're freezing in the streets, man. It's like people talk about climbing Mount Everest. How about you live in Edmonton? You know what I mean? It is disastrous out here, dude.
It's
Goodness
fine.
gracious.
It's just the coldest place on the planet, Sean. It's not a problem.
I know. I don't want that title, but that's okay. Somebody else can have that one, dude. Oh my goodness gracious. It's okay. I've got a coffee. I'm happy. There's lots of video games to talk. There's lots of news. We're slamming into the end of the year, man. And shout out to Kevin Ainsworth in the chat. Still doesn't have a job. So if anybody has work for Kevin, please send it his way. The Muffin Mon in the Discord.
You mean how
Please
literally
help
he
him.
beat Muffin, Marvel's Midnight Suns in 3 days when everyone keeps telling me it's a 60-hour game?
Yeah, don't understand it. Yeah. So he probably a liar is really, maybe is that where we're going here? We're going, instead of saying that he is jobless, to just being a total liar.
Being a liar? No,
Yeah.
I don't think
We'll pull
so.
back
I don't
from
think
that.
he lies.
Yeah,
I think
we'll
you can
pull back.
I think you can definitely go to a trophy list of Kevin's and you can definitely tell he's played.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
Also, he corrects me in the chat, 37 hours. Again, people were telling me longer, but yeah, it only took Kevin.
Oh, so he doesn't
37
actually
hours.
complete games is what you're saying.
Or
there's more
or
that
he's
he's
just so fat. He's just so good at games, Sean, that he beats them so quickly.
That's where that's why you're
job.
defending him, because you are the same on that front.
I do kind of fit in the same camp as him, but yeah, we should probably roll into things real quick because, of course, we're stalling because we got to get going with the show today. So
Stalling like a car. Oh, good one. Good pun.
Yeah.
Yep, I like
Not
it.
just a hat rack, my friend. Well, anyways, let's clean the garage a little bit. So, folks at home, if you want to support the show, there's a number of awesome ways to do that. So, if you're watching the live stream right now, we're at youtube.com/carpoolgaming, or if you're watching the video on demand later, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and then ding, 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 ring that notification bell to be notified whenever we go live with new videos or the multitude of live streams happening over the next couple days. Because, Sean, here is where I'm going to, shamelessly plug the fact that we are doing the Game Awards tomorrow. We're actually going to be live streaming the Game Awards tomorrow evening, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll be me, Sean, and other people. Maybe Court, maybe other people. I can't remember who's on it.
Nobody knows. If only there's a way for us to keep track of all this stuff.
If only there was a better way, Sean. But also, stay tuned to this channel after today's live stream, because I'm actually going to be streaming River City Girls 2 on the channel about an hour after the stream today. So make sure to come on back after watching Xbox Drive today. Also, if you're listening on audio feeds, don't forget to subscribe to us there and then rate us if you're listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. As well, if you want this show a little bit early or some exclusive content, head on over to our Patreon, patreon.com/carpoolgaming. Throw a little tip in the old tip jar and out comes content. However, Sean, it's December. We're in the giving mood.
Yes.
So we are actually making all of our exclusive content for the month free for everybody. You don't even have to be a patron. Just go over to our Patreon, patreon.com/carpoolgaming, and you can watch some exclusive content like the after show from the Nintendo Drive yesterday.
We went places, man. All the way from our dirty drinking days to getting healthy these days. We went on a journey. We talk about all sorts of stuff. Last week we talked about Seth being a full-time content creator, and I feel like we got a great response to that conversation because it was very, very real. Very unfiltered, I would say. So, what's it really like to make that decision to become a full-time content creator? Seth is the only one out of all of us who's done it. So he was talking a little bit about what that's like and how that can be a little scary, and it's a very courageous decision for him to have made. So I wanted to ask him a little bit about that. So all on patreon.com/carpoolgaming. And Ryan, and I don't know if you're just going to jump into this as well. One of probably the most anticipated episodes of content for us at Carpool Gaming here is the final episode of the Console War Room with Mr. Badbit and Kyle Stevenson and you, Ryan Turford. I don't think we've even talked about this. All four of us have to be on this show because the thrilling conclusion to our Fantasy Critic League for 2022 is coming to an end, and it all relies on River City Girls 2. It's the swing game. It's releasing with 16 days left in 2022. It's their final counter pick. It's our final pick that's releasing. And if it does, I think we just talked about this, 79 points or so. If it scores a 79, we win. If it's a 78, I think we lose. I actually think, I'm not sure how half points are going to score out this
It'll
way.
be close with the ties because
tie is close, man.
A tie is very close because we're like, even on the decimal points, when I look at it, we're like very, very close on the decimal points even because currently, as it sits, the trophy room at 251.74 points. And then
that's right. There are decimal points. It rounds it in the final, in the big box score. You're right.
Yes.
Oh
Whereas
my gosh.
we, the Xbox Drive, currently sitting at 234.66 points. Although we don't have the decimal points from Crisis Core yet.
Right. We're
We're
sitting at an 80. Sitting at an 80,
so
that means 10 points. Every point above 70 is a point. Every point above 90, I think, is 2 or 3 points. So we each have a 90-plus game in this. And for Save the Game Media in the chat, I'm sorry if I misspoke, the final episode of 2022. We're going to be doing this again in 2023, and I cannot wait for it. But yeah, the Console War Room will continue on into 2023. But this is as exciting a finale, I think, as we could ever hope for. And it's going to be there. You know, we've been talking about it all year on the Console War Room, which is exclusive to the $3 tier and up at patreon.com/carpoolgaming. So, man, what an ending, though. Holy cow. Crisis Core did very well. Midnight Suns did very well for us. I got 80 with the first one, 83 with the second here. And, man, River City Girls, who knew, Ryan?
Who knew that
This
when
was
I
your pick.
suggested we pick that during the draft, that it would all literally come down to just that game?
You picked it back in January of 2022. I didn't know anything about this. And this could be the thing. Like, there's so many different ways this could have gone. I think back to it and all the different pickups and the drops that we've done. We had Midnight Suns and we dropped it when it got delayed. We picked it back up when it got reestablished and re-released in 2022. Man, what a year. It has been thrilling. And Joe has taken every chance he could get to toss all the shade. And it's come to, it's so close. He's actually given up. If you look at his tweets, he's given up. He thinks he's lost. So,
or
we'll
maybe
see.
that's his way of like willing, fate into existence and be like, actually, this game will end up as a 77.
Oh,
because,
man.
Joe
It's
is
so
sad
exciting. This
about
is
it.
the best possible finish. It's almost like we shouldn't do it again because it can't get any better than this.
It probably won't be able to. Although, again, next year is going to be like a murderer's row of games. So,
oh my gosh, we need more games.
I
to
imagine
pick.
our points are going to be like inflated next year with so many quality games.
Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting pick. But
So good.
Anyways.
Yeah, we got lots to talk about. We've got our Game of the Year stuff coming up here pretty soon. Sweet Hangs, of course. We'll have a holiday themed Sweet Hangs. But yeah, enjoy all the stuff at Patreon.
Also, reminder, thanks for reminding me about Game of the Year. So we have our Game of the Year special that we're recording next week. But as some of y'all might have seen in the Discord, we actually have a form to fill out if you would like to be part of our Game of the Year show, because we're actually looking for you, the Carpool Gaming community, to be part of the show. So we want to know what your 3 favorite games of the year are. Either, take your phone and kind of record yourself, or if you've got a fancy podcast set up like we do, we want you to record yourself as well. Or you can just let us know on the Google Drive form as well that I provided what your favorite games are if you don't want to appear on the episode, and we want you to be part of the episode. So please make sure to fill that in there. If it's in our general tab of our Discord, which is free to join. The link is in the show notes or the description of this video if you're watching on YouTube. And when you go there, just go to the general tab, go to the pinned comments, and you will see it right there. It's at the very top. Sean is now decorating himself with Christmas flyers, and I'm wondering what this podcast has devolved into at this point. I have to describe it for the audio listeners, of course, Sean.
I'm draping myself in small, tiny little, and they're not even white. They're kind of like tinted yellow. Like these kind of suck, but I guess this is why they're left over and not used on a tree or anything else. But it's the holidays, dude. Let's get in the holiday spirit.
Is this show anymore, Sean?
I don't know,
Jesus.
man. Yep.
All right, last thing real quick. We have new merch. We have a new fall line of merch. There's some of it's limited as well. Definitely go check it out on our merch store, bit.ly/CPG merch. I know we got to get going, so that's why I don't want to focus too much.
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
But anyways, let's slam the brakes on this conversation because it's not time for some breaking news. I made the wrong decision there. Let's hop into the playlist, Sean. Let's talk about the games we're playing. So, Sean, what have you been playing?
Dude, I beat The Return of Monkey Island. It's on Game Pass, and I played it because we're going to be chatting about it on the Backtrackers December 17th, 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, 11 a.m. on the East Coast over there. And I'm excited because it was my choice. This was my game that I got to pick as part of our video game book club. It's run by the community, and the Google spinning wheel got to choose me to choose this game. And I kind of talked a little bit about it on the Nintendo Drive. I'll keep my thoughts high level here. And I just adore this, man. I really enjoyed my return to Monkey Island. Like, I mean, it really is a return in so many ways. Lots of great different themes there as far as like going back to something that you had done many, many years ago, and kind of like maybe you were defined by that. And a lot of us, I think, can relate to that on a personal front. The developers are making this game that is an ode and return to the older Monkey Island games back in the late 80s, early 90s on PC, this old point and click adventure. And the story itself is baked in that, and it's just throughout all the themes in there. And I really enjoy that because I feel like I'm right there with them. I'm a little younger than the developers, but it's something that I can certainly relate to. And I think we're going to have a great discussion on things like, does that style of play still have a place in 2022? Like, it's old school, man. The point and click, you wander around. There's not a whole lot of game mechanics. It's finding a bunch of items around this wonderful setting, and maybe sometimes combining them to solve puzzles or trick the other characters in the story. But I really enjoyed it, and maybe because I could actually do it. I think that's really the thing, is it didn't stump me too much. So I felt pretty good about myself solving some of these problems that in the past, as younger Sean, I used to get stuck with this kind of stuff. Like Willy Beamish,
also, like,
goodness gracious.
The puzzles back then just made no sense.
They made no sense.
It's like, what do you mean I have to take this squirrel and this rubber band and this cog from a wheel and then combine them together to do something weird and wacky? Like
Totally.
Like some of the logic in some of those old games just made no sense. So from the sounds of it, because one of my questions was going to be about the puzzles and if they were like really obtuse in that way, but it doesn't sound like you had to do that. Like, it doesn't sound like you had to go resort to using a guide to figure some of this stuff out.
I think I did like twice. Well, I was playing with my son Lincoln, and every once in a while I was like, let's use the hint book. And I'm like, that's not really a point of the game. Like, we can figure this out. We can think it through. And so he kind of encouraged us to use the hint book once or twice.
Okay.
And there really was, I think there was one where I'm a little lost on this one. But yeah, for the most part, they kind of made sense. It's really like, it's a combination of, do you have to combine these items to create something new? That's usually where I would get tripped up, instead of just taking an item and going to, put it on a person or giving it to somebody or whatever to cause something else to happen. So it was really fun to go back to it. And I'm glad that I did roll credits on it. It's got great extras, almost like a DVD kind of bonus features. There's a scrapbook in the end that gives you a little bit more insight into where their mindset was making this game. And it's a perfect Game Pass game. This is something for everybody can play this. It's probably tricky for some people to fit it in. I probably wouldn't if it wasn't for the Backtrackers, but now I got another game to maybe consider for my Game of the Year chat that we do next week, my friend.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, this is one of those games too that I wanted to play at some point this year, but it's just kind of fallen between the cracks of, every other game that's come out, especially in the back half of the year, like end of November, late and into December, because there are so many games, as we've talked about before, in December that I'm very excited about, but which just unfortunately doesn't make a lot of room for this type of game. But I do want to play it. So
like you could, and you're smart with these things, so you'll finish it no problem.
But this is the type of game that like maybe I play over the holidays or like sometime when I want downtime from a bigger game next year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely want to check it, especially while it's all in Game Pass still. Like I want to make sure I definitely play it before it leaves Game Pass for sure.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Very cool.
In fact, world we live in, Sean Capri beating games, because you beat 2 games in 1 week.
I know.
Sean.
Also did Mario plus Rabbids, so check out our channel for the review discussion with Seth and Garrett coming out pretty soon. I feel like there's one other thing I wanted to tell you about, but maybe that's it.
Halo, maybe?
Oh no, but about Monkey Island, I wanted to tell. I was doing crossplay. I could play, like, you can play anywhere. So I started the game on PC, and then I jumped over to the console and played a little bit there. I even played on my iPad, with the cloud, and it's such a perfect, like, those style of games are perfect. And I think the last game I played on the cloud, like more than just a couple of seconds, was Tell Me Why or the last Life is Strange game. So these games that's kind of where I'm at. But dude, it ran quite well. I mean, it's not very demanding, but it was great for me. So pretty good.
Yeah, you don't need Twitch reflexes to play that game or anything like that. So it seems like a great option.
No, and no visual glitches or anything like that. And just, again, the magic that you can just start it. You don't have to go like, am I synced with my cloud? Am I doing like, I have such a hard time with that with Nintendo and with PlayStation. Like it's such, I just fire it up and I don't even have to think about it. It's like, here's your latest save and it's just awesome. I'm waiting for it to not work and then it just keeps working. So it makes me happy.
Well, speaking of, games that you might need Twitch reflexes for, Sean,
Oh,
I have been playing the Callisto Protocol. I've been the person at Carpool Gaming playing this game. Huge thank you, of course, to Xbox as always for providing us a code for this game. And this is a game I was pretty excited about. I love Dead Space, as longtime listeners of the show had probably know from listening to the Roundabout, or Xbox 360 show. My second favorite game on the Xbox 360 of all time was the original Dead Space. So I was like very excited for this game. I knew it wasn't going to be an exact like Dead Space clone per se, because this is a very different experience. It's still, still a sci-fi horror game like Dead Space is, but it's very, very different from the Dead Space games, both in tone, but also with the way it plays as well. Because it is like, it's more of a melee focused game in a lot of ways. Like it almost feels like, I think it actually has a lot more DNA with something like Elden Ring or Bloodborne than it does with something with the original Dead Space, because it almost feels like a Souls-like, where each combat encounter, like if you take a couple hits in this game, you're dead. Like you don't have a lot of armor at all or a lot of health, and you have like minimal resources to work with health, especially at the very beginning of the game, because you only have like so deep pockets to kind of hold things in your inventory to walk around with. So you do have to be very mindful of that. And the way that this game works, and actually I should bring in Kevin Ainsworth actually before I get into this. Kevin asks, I want to know your feelings about the Callisto Protocol's combat. Is it as bad as reviewers say? My brother was super excited for this game, but decided to wait for a sale after seeing reviews. So yes, the combat itself is very different from a lot of games, because it is melee focused. So you're trying to bash these like zombie-like creatures in with your weapon. But the way that the dodge works in this game, because it is mostly about dodging and parrying and blocking attacks, is it's not a button on your controller to dodge. You actually have to, if you want to dodge to the left, you have to hold down the left analog stick, like your movement stick, in order to dodge left. And likewise, you have to hold down the right analog stick to dodge right. And if you want to block an attack, you have to hold back, like down on your analog stick. So it's a very like weird system to get used to. Like it's definitely different from like any other game I've played as far as the way the dodging mechanic works. And it's very core to the game. Like you can't get away in this game without using the dodges and parrying and blocks.
Why would they do that? Why, like, this has been figured out before. I don't understand when these new control schemes kind of come up, and sometimes they do break new ground in ways that we weren't asking for to begin with, but I don't imagine, like, that sounds so cumbersome. But does it add to it in the end? Like, does it feel like it's more immersive? Like, I'm trying to understand why they would do something like that.
Yeah, I think they did it for the immersion reason, and also to just maybe free up buttons on the controller, I guess, or just to make it more of a tense experience. Because again, it is a survival horror game, and definitely like when you see multiple enemies in this game, you get scared because you don't want to take on multiple dudes at once, because it will not end well for you, especially with the way the dodging and blocking works. It's very hard to dodge multiple enemies at once. So it really causes you to think and plan out your combat encounters in a way that most survival horror games usually don't do. Or if they do that, it's usually you're planning out encounters based on your ammo for your gun.
Right.
As opposed to that. So the combat system itself, to back to Kevin's question, it definitely felt off for me at first. I definitely was not a fan of it to begin with, especially because the funny thing about the way this is set up, if you actually hold, if your like analog stick is like a little bit down, like it's a little bit on a diagonal, it just assumes you're not blocking or dodging. So you'll hold down the left analog stick, but because I'm like, 1 or 2 degrees off on the angle, I will then, get hit instead and take like a quarter of my health down, basically, because of that mistake. So I was definitely frustrated with it at first until I got used to it, but it actually grew on me the more I've been playing the game. So especially because they add new elements later, because you do eventually get a gun in the game with extremely limited ammunition. But the way it works is as you're doing your melee attacks, it then gives you like a quick fire option to then blow off the limb of your enemy, or sometimes it blows their head off, like clean off, because it's a hand cannon that you get. So it's actually like basically like a magnum that you're walking around with, but you just don't want to use it all the time because it is, you know, very, very limited in ammunition. So it definitely grew on me. So I don't think it's as bad as people were saying in reviews, the Buffet Demon, but it's more along the lines of, I think it's very polarizing. I think you're either probably going to be like really, really into this combat system. Like I know Joe, our friend over at the Church Room, he's also been playing it, and him and I have been talking back and forth. And he also was kind of in the same boat, not liking it at the beginning either, but he's like super into it now. So I do think the people that are really into that type of combat are going to be really into it, and those that aren't, like, this is going to be an instant pass for them or a super big disappointment for them.
Well, the thing is, and this is, I feel like where we got with Resident Evil, like with Resident Evil 5, is at a certain point, a horror game starts to feel more like an action game. And maybe that's to the point of my question earlier. Like, it's meant to feel different. It's meant to not be like Uncharted or something like that, this third person where you can do anything and you're free to just, like, at a whim, just dodge out of the way. So I don't know. Like, I'm very torn on this because I think about one of my favorite games of all time, The Evil Within. I think it sounds like it kind of plays similar to this or Resident Evil 4, where it is cumbersome on purpose, and the idea of holding that against the game is like, I'm trying to figure out how to measure that, how to evaluate that sort of thing, because it seems like it's part of the experience. It just doesn't feel as good as something like I said, like kind of like the Uncharted is that word, or Spider-Man. Like, you're not Spider-Man, you know what I mean? So it's gonna feel a little bit more like, I don't know, you're slower paced kind of thing.
Yeah, and likewise, there's no run button in this game. Your character moves like molasses. You move very slowly, which again I think is also on purpose, because if enemies are coming at you, you can't run away from them. You walk very slowly away and hope you don't get hit. Yeah. So it's just, and likewise, that at the beginning of the game, one of the frustrating things is you don't have access to your stealth attacks, but you get those later on in the game, which then help, you know, thin out some of the enemy numbers. So then it makes the combat encounters much more manageable from that point as well. So like, it gives you so many more tools. Yeah, that
totally reminds me of The Evil Within. Like, there were times where I'm like, I am not going to survive this, and then I don't know exactly what happens, but you end up, and this is such a long time ago, I'm referring to a game that's like a decade old at this point, but it stuck with me, dude. That game is terrifying, and yeah, very, very cool. I'm very intrigued by this. When a game like this gets reviews as we've seen, I'm more intrigued than ever, because we are seeing some like, you know, high 80s and some 5s out of 10, like 4. Like,
it gets lower. There's multiple 2s out of 10s for this game.
Completely it's like figure skating. You just like don't count those, the lowest reviews. Like, they're not even part of the consideration. But you're right. Like, and I think every game that we've been looking at this year, I think we've looked at overall Metacritic and OpenCritic scores closer than ever, just because of the Fantasy Critic League. But yeah, it's interesting. I'm so glad that we have you covering this game and playing it, because I think that we need that perspective from our own group rather than just being subject to whatever the reviews are saying at this point. And a lot of people are curious. Kevin's not the only one asking these questions.
Yeah, because actually we've got a question from Blaze Knight as well, who also asks, I've heard that the Callisto Protocol put an inferior version of the game on Xbox, and that it is riddled with performance problems as a result. With that in mind, is this game worth it at full price? So I'm not going to answer the game being worth it at full price here, because one, I'm actually going to be doing a review that should go live next week. It's just, I was going to do it this week, but I had to push it back a little bit.
Yeah.
But I do, so I'll answer that question there. But as far as performance problems, I'm running any playing this game on.
Oh, that's cool.
It actually runs beautifully, especially in performance mode. Like, I think this game runs really well, and I haven't run into any performance issues. The stuttering that's in the PC version isn't in the console version, so I actually think that the Xbox version is actually probably even the safer way maybe to play it than, you know, the PC version. So I'm enjoying playing it on.
Ryan, I heard that they released a patch that was the wrong one because of a clerical error, because someone was in a rush. Did you see that?
I did see that as well. I didn't want to comment there, but yes.
Oh. It's like, we're not.
I didn't want to bring that negativity into things, Sean. But look what
is it negative? I don't know if it's negativity. I don't know about you, but like in my work, version control is a major issue, you know, and it's tricky, and you pull your hair out over it when something's like, we already approved this, but we're back to this thing, and it happens. It's probably the most relatable error, like, if any of us could ever, you know, relate to, because none of us make games. We don't know what the heck is going on, but you go like, we released the wrong version because of a clerical, like, dude, happens all the time. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Exactly.
Seems like it's easily fixed. Like that's the thing. When you say something like that, you go, well, okay, well, give us the right one. Should work out right as rain. But again, I don't know how to make games, so who knows?
Yeah, exactly. But anyways, I'll save the talk for Callisto Protocol for another day. Again, we'll have a review up next week, so look out for that from me, because I have a lot more to say about this game. But anyways, let's slam the brakes on this conversation. It is time for some breaking news. And Sean, we've had a rule during the
Yes.
Activision Blizzard, fiasco
Yep.
to not talk about this every single week. We basically decided we're going to wait until until the deal's done or something really significant comes along that we can't ignore talking about. And today, friends, has been one of those days. So last night, Phil Spencer actually announced via Twitter that Microsoft has entered into an agreement with Nintendo to bring Call of Duty to Nintendo platforms as part of a 10-year deal if the Activision Blizzard deal closes. Also, Spencer mentioned in the same tweet that he confirmed that Call of Duty will also be coming to Steam day and date with Battle.net, which happens now, but there was some worries that they were going to pull that off and maybe bring it to like the Microsoft store only or something like that. But nope, it'll still continue to exist on Steam, and he wanted to reassure the audience of that as well. And so we have to do a little Nintendo Drive crossover here, since Sean, you also appear on the Nintendo Drive. So as our resident Nintendo person, I need to know from you, what do you think about this news? Because it's pretty big.
It is pretty big, and it's so interesting how Nintendo has almost not been part of this conversation at all, except for the last time you and I talked about this. Nintendo was brought up because I was frustrated that they were just kind of like not even part of this. I'm like, how is that possible? They're like the top video game maker on the planet, and we're all talking about this anti-competition stuff, and Nintendo's just like not even part of this discussion. It didn't make any sense. And I've been listening to a lot of podcasts over the last little while, all of them lamenting that, I guess we got to talk about this Activision thing again. And again, it's your choice. It's your podcast. Nobody's forcing you to do anything. We just proved it for the last however many weeks. So there. But none of them brought up Nintendo. Not a single one have been talking about Nintendo. So the reason that this, I think, landed so heavy, and for me, I was like, holy crap, was because everybody's like, oh yeah, Nintendo's still around. Like, that's crazy to me. They're setting records with how many consoles they're doing. And I think so number one, Nintendo being a surprise shouldn't be a surprise, but it is, and that's hilarious to me. Number two, it completely invalidates all the anti-competition stuff that Sony's been trying to do. And so I feel like Sony's really painted themselves in an ugly corner here. The entire time, I think for fanboys of the console, it's been difficult to defend a lot of what they've been doing or saying, very contradictory, almost hypocritical type of stuff this whole time. But here we are, Xbox going like, well, yeah, like not only are we gonna not put it on PlayStation, but we're gonna add to it. So it completely invalidates a lot of stuff that's been going on. We'll see how this lands, but I thought it was really shocking. Just it blew up the internet last night, and also there's an Xbox or a Microsoft executive who's been kind of weighing in on this. His name is Brad Smith. And he did a piece in the Wall Street Journal and then came out and followed up with Phil Spencer's tweet and said, this is just spicy, dude. He said, our acquisition will bring Call of Duty to more gamers and more platforms than ever before. That's good for competition and good for consumers. Thank you at Nintendo. Any day at Sony wants to sit down and talk, we'll be happy to hammer out a 10-year deal for PlayStation as well. Like, dude calls them out. That is absolutely bonkers. And the last thing I'll say on this, Ryan, is this Brad Smith guy, I feel like gets to play that role, which is a different one in the PR sphere than Phil Spencer is. He's kind of getting to play the aggressive role, the aggressor, the bad guy, bad cop kind of thing. Phil Spencer's still very polished, very kind, doing the good things for the gamers. Brad Smith coming out here with like some classic, Xbox 360 versus PS3, almost Peter Moore like, if I can say so myself. That's kind of who I see who I think of when I see some of these tweets coming out. So that's my thoughts on this, dude. Holy crap.
Yeah, I think honestly this is pretty big. I mean, first of all, this would be the very first time Call of Duty's been on a Nintendo platform since Call of Duty Ghosts came to the Wii U, if you remember back in those days.
Yeah, so man. Awesome.
It's been a long time since we've seen Call of Duty on Nintendo platforms. It makes perfect sense. I mean, Phil, already told us that, a long time ago that he intended to bring, Call of Duty games to Nintendo platforms. So it's good to actually see that in writing, which of course they can use if, you know, the CMA over in the UK, for example, wants to come at them and say, well, actually, you're not, you know, putting the games. You're obviously not going to put games on other places, even though you're saying you're going to. And this is like, well, actually, we have the proof right here. You know, we signed an agreement. We're willing to put this in writing at this point.
I love it, dude. It's such a, like, it's such an ace. And it's not like they just decided, hey, maybe we should go talk to Nintendo. You got to know that these are the things that they've had in their minds as part of the strategy the whole time. And Babbitt and I have been talking about this deal a lot on the console war room, to be honest. And there's been a lot of frustration. Like, why doesn't Phil Spencer just like tell us stuff? And it's like, dude, he's negotiating a $70 billion deal. Like, you don't show all your cards the entire time. But that's what Sony has really done. They really kind of like shot everything that they had at this, and it's not going to hold up. Like, I'm no lawyer. I have no idea. I've never done a $70 billion merger. That's one of the biggest or acquisition, I should say. It's one of the reasons why we don't typically talk about this sort of thing, because none of us know what we're talking about, dude.
Yeah.
But
we're just small town pizza lawyers here, Sean. We're not actually, you know, real lawyers.
Hardly even small town. Yeah. But it seems to just shatter a lot of what was there. And yeah, it makes them look just like the good guys here. And also, it's only Call of Duty we're talking about is wild to me. This is like, we're talking about as if $70 billion.
Well, they don't care about the other games. By the sounds of it, like PlayStation doesn't sound like they care about World of Warcraft.
Well, they're just trying to make it simple. It is a complex issue. And that, like, it's not, that's really the nuts and bolts of it, is you're talking to people who have no idea about this industry to the degree that any of us do. And it only complicates the matter if you go like, oh, but this, and also Diablo, and also StarCraft, and blah, blah, blah. You simplify it to the thing that they probably have heard of, that's probably something their kids or grandkids are playing, and it makes it tangible. So that was the strategy, I think, for Sony to say, but I think it's going to backfire, because they could have gone a little bit more broad, but the idea was make it tangible for the decision makers to grasp onto it so they could understand what's being argued here.
Yeah. So hopefully this is a sign of like, maybe we can finally get on with this deal and, you know, put this behind us, hopefully sometime early next year. But we got to move on, Sean.
That's it.
We're never going to get through this.
Another time, we're on a cool down, man. That's it. We're not talking about Activision for another, I don't know, couple 3 or 4 weeks, maybe not into 2023. So hope you enjoyed that, everybody.
Exactly. Well, next up, Microsoft has announced that Xbox Series X and S specific first-party titles are going to be $69.99 US starting in 2023.
Wait, not nice.
Starting with Forza Motorsport, Redfall, and Starfield. And we got a question about this from Nagachaka, who asks, how do you guys feel about Xbox raising prices of their future first-party games to 90 Canadian dollars in 2023? And why is this another good reason to get Game Pass? And actually, you know, Nagachaka says that, but, you know, we've started to see companies list Canadian prices actually at $94 as well. That's starting to become a thing. And we're getting to the point, Sean, where in Canada it's going to be $100 before tax.
Yeah.
For games. So, yeah, I think first of all, this definitely is a move to kind of push gamers to Game Pass. But I think it's more than that, because, you know, Phil Spencer kind of, you know, highlighted this when this announcement first went live. He said, you know, due to the complications that you know, are put into, you know, making games now and how much it costs to make them, you know, it makes sense, especially now that the rest of the industry is going up at that price, that they're going to go up with that price at that point as well. But if you don't like that price, you know, Game Pass is right there. You can just subscribe to Game Pass, and then you never have to worry about the game prices at this point. So that's why, like, Nagachaka, like, even though it's like, you know, I think a lot of people out there are, you know, complaining a little bit about this. I personally don't really care about this, because I would just subscribe to Game Pass anyways. So it doesn't affect me. But what do you think, Sean?
Yeah, you can pile it on. Like, I don't think you can actually do that with the PlayStation services. I don't think you can stack them. You can.
Oh, you can.
Oh, you can now? Really? I felt like that was such a big, or is that just before it launched?
They did that, like, for example, there was just a big Black Friday sale for PlayStation, and they offered PlayStation Plus, and you could stack it there.
Interesting. I totally missed that. I should have done that. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's parity. There's a lot of people, I think, calling out others who were attacking PlayStation for their rise to 70, and now, like, we need to keep the same energy for Xbox. The one thing, and that's a almost completely fair statement, except Game Pass really changes it, dude, because it's not like the whole argument against Xbox, everybody was talking like, nobody buys the games anymore anyways, they just get them on Xbox. So it's like, if that's the case, then you can't be mad at this. If all of us have been just playing first party games on Game Pass, then that's the land we've been playing in for a long time here. But it is interesting from almost like a coercion kind of thing. Like I think I was commenting on Twitter, like they could have raised it to $80 or $90, like it could have gone even further. If they really want to hammer home the point, the better place to be is actually on Game Pass. If they want to lock people in on a month-to-month basis, but still, like that's a petty thing, I think, more than anything. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I haven't been impacted by this. I play the games on Game Pass. So, and then if these games ever leave, so as long as I'm on Game Pass, then great. And if I ever stop doing Game Pass, it'll be after the games have come out, and then I'll just get them on sale.
Yeah, other than the Forza games, we don't really see games leave Game Pass at all from Microsoft. Right. So at that point too, I'm just like, well, I don't think Starfield's ever leaving Game Pass, so why would I need to buy it for, $80?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is tricky. So for the people who just don't like Game Pass, I feel like maybe because we're speaking from our own experience, but there are definitely people who don't want to be locked in on a subscription. This does suck for them. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about that other than this is kind of the way that...
It is what it is, but it's also like Microsoft isn't the first company to do this, and everyone's going in this direction. I would be very surprised if we exit, next year without every company being this price for their games.
Yeah, and I'm trying to decide, like, I'm wondering if they're going to have some big announcement at the Game Awards, which is tomorrow as we record this.
Yeah.
To kind of like overshot that, like to kind of cloud this over a little bit. I don't know. It seemed like it was an out of nowhere announcement. They didn't really pair it up with like, but the good news is such and such. So we'll see. But it does, to me, it only drives value for Game Pass, and it's all seems like part of the plan anyway. So whatever, man.
Yeah. All right. Next news story, the ID at Xbox Winter Game Demo Event showcase is happening right now with 22 games to try out between now and December 12th. As always, these games are, for the most part, very early in development, so they might not run as well as the final product. And we got a question from Bowza on the Discord, and she asks, which of these demos will you be trying out? So, unfortunately, I know personally because I've got a very busy week of both Callisto Protocol and River City Girls 2 because I want to have reviews out for both of those, that I'm just probably not going to get a chance to check these out before the 12th. But what about you? Are you going to be checking out any of these demos, Sean, at all?
I'm in my cramming. No? I typically, the last time this happened, I think was when we played Metal Hellslinger, and there's a few other games that came out and were really good there. So I do want to encourage people to do that. If you don't have a podcast to cram for a Game of the Year conversation, this is a really great thing to check out. But I do feel like my attention will be drawn elsewhere over the next, I don't know, week or so. We got 8 days, Ryan, for me to cram some of this stuff in. So we'll see.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, next up, the following games are coming to Game Pass, and just strap yourself in. There's a lot of them.
I'm strapped in. I got lights on me.
Out right now, Eastward, The Walking Dead, the final season.
Awesome.
Totally reliable delivery service on PC. And Lego Star Wars, The Skywalker Saga.
Yes.
So if you missed out on that, make sure to go play it.
Can I say something about that? I had bought that. Absolutely. Did I just say this mentioned last week? I actually bought it on a Black Friday sale and didn't play it, thank God, because I was able to return it, and now I've got $40 in my virtual wallet to go spend on something else at the end of the year holiday sale. Nice. Yeah, man, stoked about it.
We're gonna get that Boxing Day sale pretty soon, Sean. So it'll be worth waiting for that. And also Halo Neighbor 2 out today as well.
Halo Neighbor.
Halo Neighbor 2. And then on December 8th, we're getting Chained Echoes and Metal Hellsinger for Xbox One. I didn't know that this was a thing.
I was so confused by that. Xbox, that's hilarious. That's awesome.
Yeah. So there's an Xbox One version of Metal Hellsinger coming, and it will be on Game Pass. And then December 13th, we're getting High on Life, Potion Craft, and Rainbow Billy, The Curse of Leviathan. So that's your first half of the month Game Pass drop. Go check all those out. But there's also a equally large list of games leaving on December 15th. And again, lots of good games here too. Aliens Fireteam Elite, Breathalyge, Dragon Quest XI, Echoes of Elusive Age. If you don't have that game, grab it now while it's on sale. For the love of all that's holy.
That's a big one.
Yep. Firewatch, Lake,
good one.
One Piece, Pirate Warriors 4, Neoverse, Race with Ryan. Hey, that's me.
Hey.
Record of Lotus War, Deedlit in Wonder Labyrinth, which, by the way, if y'all have never played that game, it's a really excellent Metroidvania game. I highly recommend checking it out before it leaves. Rory McIlroy, PGA Tour, and Transformers Battlegrounds. So all those.
Oh, that Transformers game is fun. That's too bad.
Yeah, that's a lot of good games that are leaving Game Pass. So make sure to grab those now if you're interested as well. And then last news story I wanted to cover before we go to our one question this week comes to us from Capcom. They have announced that the Switch exclusive Monster Hunter Rise is coming to Xbox One and Series X and S on January 20th. Additionally, the Sunbreak expansion will also arrive sometime in spring 2023, and it's going to be on Game Pass, so we don't even have to buy it, Sean. We can just play Monster Hunter Rise next month when there's a bajillion other games to play as well. Because, we got Persona 3 and 4 on Game Pass that same month. Dead Space will be out.
God.
Forspoken. Just so many games in January of next year, Sean.
Too many games. And this isn't the first time we've had a Monster Hunter game on Game Pass. We actually had Monster Hunter. What the heck was that? World. Oh, dude, what a great game. So good. Yeah. So love to see this. We want more Capcom on Game Pass, by the way. This would be great. But you love to see it. I think it was leaked maybe by the time we recorded last week, and we didn't really. I can't remember what happened, but
yeah, it was
right
leaked,
after.
and then they announced it, made a formal announcement like a couple days later.
Yeah.
So because I was thinking that was going to be like a Game Awards reveal, and I didn't want to, of course, spoil it for people if they didn't announce it ahead of time. So, but yeah, I'm excited to check it out. I always try the Monster Hunter games and hope that, eventually one will click with me.
I know.
And so far it's only been Stories and Stories 2. But I'm excited to at least try this one because I've heard
Oh yeah, give me Stories on X, but give me that on Game Pass. I've already bought it on Nintendo, and it just doesn't run very well, dude. Like
I was gonna say that would be like Xbox would be the perfect place to play that because it would look so much better.
That
Xbox.
would be great.
Run so much better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's a good game.
Well. Anyways, let's let some of our friends into the car with us. It is time for the carpool, and this question actually comes to us from YouTube.
I thought you were going to say it comes from me.
from Sean Capri asking me a question on the show. No, so this comes to us from Eric Cave.
Yes.
Eric Cave.
What's up, Eric?
Eric has a question for us. I have a question for you for next show. What are some of your favorite Halo Infinite Forge maps and modes? Secondarily, can we bring back Halo Saturdays and play some custom matches? I've been getting together with some friends to play Kong, Pinball, Infection, and Duck Hunt. And it's the most fun I've had on my Xbox in a long time.
That's awesome.
So, Sean, I think we talked about it before the show starts. I don't think either of us have really checked out Forge in a meaningful way. Like, I checked it out a little bit when it came out, but I didn't really find anything exciting to check out in Forge. But I think it was also very early on, and there just wasn't a ton of stuff in Forge to look at. But now, I think there might be some good stuff in Forge. I think it might be eventually time, Sean, that maybe we return to Halo Saturdays at some point. But what do you think? I mean, again, as the purveyor and the organizer of Halo Saturdays, are we returning to Halo Saturdays anytime soon, Sean?
I think so, man. This week is interesting, and we kind of touched on it a little bit on the Nintendo Drive yesterday, and we got some news also about Mario Kart today that you can now customize the items that come into your races. So that's a feature that we've been wanting with that game for a long time. And the reason I bring it up in mention of this is those are basically our competing games for our community game nights. Is Mario Kart, sometimes Splatoon, but who knows? And then Halo, Call of Duty has been there this last couple weeks. That's been super fun. But I think Halo is coming back. There's a rumbling in the Discord. There's a couple of people when is that coming back? Because before Halo Infinite, we were playing Master Chief Collection every Saturday for a year.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I was playing Halo for about an hour before we started recording today, and I'm like, this is so fun. And just getting back to the game might be the best thing that any of us can actually do instead of just parroting, saying the same thing that we're hearing, which is, oh, Halo's dead and blah, blah, blah. And it's dude, that game, it's a fun game. And they just launched the December update, which we didn't really cover in the news, but they recreated the Halo 3 map, The Pit. And it's called Empyrean. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, Empyrean something. And it's awesome. And it's just, there's a playlist where you just play that map, but with all the different modes, just regular Slayer, capture the flag, gunball, the one where you change in the guns every single time. And I had a blast because that map is so quality. So I feel like maybe there's something happening in the Halo land. So I think it was Trevor in the Discord, because I was like, I don't know what to do about this. Is it Halo? Was it Mario Kart? And he's like, why not both? So maybe that's how we end up doing this, because I don't know. It's hard to decide, and it's also Game of the Year cramming session time, so I got to figure this out. But This is a very indecisive way, Ryan. Should we confirm?
We should confirm that we should find a way to do at least
December
Halo
10th?
Saturday, at least one time before the end of the year. We got to do it. Either it's this week or next week. We got.
Oh, that maybe is a good way.
Because Mario Kart tracks are also out this week as well.
Yeah,
and that's tough. Because like I know a lot of people like I think more people will actually be more excited for Mario Kart tracks. But I want to make sure we do both. So.
Yeah. Maybe we'll play Mario Kart during the Game Awards. I'm honestly wondering, and Jeff Keighley came out and said it's going to be a much more streamlined, shorter show than usual. So we'll see. Maybe we'll have some post-show gaming, maybe during the show gaming. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it could be anything.
But I want to say shout out to Eric because we need to hear that from the community. Like, what do you guys want to play? Like, it's so helpful to get a little like idea as far as like what do you want to jump in and play together. So if it's Halo. Happy to do Halo. Like I'm stoked about it because that game is, especially on the multiplayer side, at least it doesn't kick you out. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. No communication errors. At least not so many.
I mean, the online actually functions correctly, Sean.
Weird. I know.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. But anyway, Sean, we got to get going. But before we go, Sean, plugs go.
You can find me on Twitter, not anywhere else, at Sean Capri. Sean like Connor, Capri like the pants. I didn't fall for any of those other social medias that popped up, man. Mastodon and Hives and whatever else. They're all stealing your personal information as far as I'm concerned. Just spreading more old man rumors at you, Ryan Turford. Back to you. Conspiracy theories from your
old man. Look at my life. As for me, you can find me on Twitter at Ryan Turford. You can find us on Twitter at Carpool Gaming, on YouTube at youtube.com/Carpool Gaming, on podcast services around the globe. So for Sean Capri, I'm Ryan Turford. This has been a very nice episode of the Xbox Drive, episode 269.
Nice.
And we're out. Bye.
That's real good.